Oh, man.
Just
Let to call the July TCC meeting to order. First item on the, well, I won't jump into that quite yet, but well, I guess it is call the meeting to order and let everybody know that it is a hybrid meeting. We do have a quorum. It's a hybrid option, so we do have folks online. They can communicate with staff via the chat, and the staff's been good about keeping up with any kind of questions or comments we have in there. We do have a new member to TCC, Michael Briggs, so from Nashville. Welcome, Michael, to the group.
Glad to be back.
Yes.
Former chair.
Yep.
Yeah.
So first item for business is move to approval of minutes from last meeting. If I can get a motion for approval.
Move.
Thanks, sir. Any discussion? Comments? Seeing none, I'll take a vote. All those in favor saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Let's see, second item, public comments, and any members of the public wishing to address this committee. Seeing none, I will close the public comment period. Because they may also be emailing any comments to the GNRC staff via the website. Action items. First action item on the agenda is Transportation Improvement Program, and I will turn it over to Taylor Lee.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Today, we actually will have, we have 13 listed, but actually 15 amendments. I apologize. I'll describe two of those. They're all on the GNRC website. Two of those did not make in the packet. They are related to the flexing of dollars to Franklin Transit and National MTA as part of our TAP lapse avoidance awards that we did. I think better phrasing than that. GNRC TAP awards that we gave to avoid any lapsing funds. But just I'll get to those in a minute. I'll describe those. We'll start off with the first six. These are TIP projects that are have requested modifications that are met to the project scope or determined by the project sponsors. The first one we have here, number 31, this is Lowry Street multimodal improvements. We put this on the agenda for in May for the last amendment cycle. We actually had some more questions we had to work out with MTA, and once we figured out we've gotten through those, we put it back on this one because it did not get moved through the last amendment cycle. So this is just removing the transit stop from the scope of the project because the transit stop and route that was originally supposed to serve no longer goes to that area of Smyrna. So all the only thing is removing the transit stop portion of the project. Next we have is Connect Downtown. So this is changing the scope and name of the project. So this is going down to phase one of the project. So this going from basically all of kind of identifying the entire inner loop of the downtown Nashville inside the inner loop. This is going down to several corridors along Church Street, Demumbrian, 7th Avenue, and Commerce Street. So identified specific intersection improvements to be done as part of the phase one of the Connect Downtown. So this will be, like I said, the same total cost and the same, yes.
How many signals is this including?
I believe there is, I have a map. I can't tell you exactly, but phase one, total is 105 was originally, the original Connect Downtown was larger. So this is just going to be funded with, they also have some through the Choose How You Move that will be funding locally. But these are the ones they've identified for federal funding. So I believe I'll get back to you, Jim, an exact number. I have that. They did send that. I just don't have that memorized right now. But it's going to be, I believe, about 15. But I'll get back to you with the exact numbers for those projects that we're producing this. We just put the corridors for a little more flexibility, but we will get that answer to you. The next project we have is Laverne Advanced Traffic Management System. So this project is just removing the portion of the termini along Old Nashville Highway. This is 2 intersections. The reason for this change was that the 2 intersections that were previously included as the federally funded portion of the project, we now done with local funds as part of a locally funded project. So there's still work will still be being completed. It just won't be through the scope of this federally funded project. Next, we have ADA transition plan implementation for Sumner County. This project, two main components. We are revising the scope to just focus on the ADA improvements portion of the project. So removing the sidewalk gap portion. And then we're going to remove the locally funded line to reflect the reduced cost of the project. So you see here, we lose that 2023 local line is being removed and the project scope is being amended to just focus on the ADA transition plan. So ADA, basically the ADA improvements identifies as part of their transition plan. Next, we have the Hendersonville Signal Timing Optimization Program. This is adding a little over 220,000 of federal CMAQ funds to fiscal year 25 construction. This project is close to moving to construction, so they were awarded additional CMAQ funds as part of a request to TDOT for the difference between the TIP and their most recent estimate. Next, we have a new project. This will be manufactured, stay at 397 Multi-Use Trail in Franklin. Total project cost of $6 million, just over $6 million, $6.1 million. And at this stage, we only have $610,000 of local funding through right away in the TIP. We anticipate in the next TIP cycle will include any TAP award for the construction. They don't anticipate reaching construction this TIP cycle. So right now we're only having those earlier phases. It's a 1 mile segment of multi-use trail between State Route 106 and State Route 6 on Backcatcher. Next, the next couple of projects here, the next 4 are all in conjunction with, we previously talked about the possible TAP lapse we're trying to avoid. So these are GNRC awards to kind of avoid having any TAP funds lapse. The first one we have here is the traffic flow improvements and traffic signal reviews phase 4. I apologize. That's the next project. There's two Goodlettsville projects here. So I apologize. This first one is the Goodlettsville phase 3. We're adding $412,000 of UTAP funds to this project to fund ADA and TAP eligible work on the CMAQ project. So that's a 2025 construction line adding $412,000 of federal funds. So to go to construction here in the coming weeks. Next we have, sorry, this is the other one. This is another addition of CMAQ funds for the Goodlettsville traffic flow improvements phase 4. This is adding a little over $180,000 of additional design funds for this project due to increased consulting costs. Next, we have the Mount Pleasant Downtown Revitalization Phase 1. This is part of our TAP awards, if approved by the board, to avoid any lapsing of our TAP dollars. This is adding a little over $413,000 of federal UTAP funds. This is moving for our regional active transportation program. This is to fund eligible TAP activities that were previously unfunded. So there, in the previous TIP page, there's a little under 1.8 million. There's still going to be a $1.2 million local line. This is due to some of the project work being ineligible. So right-of-way relocation, things of that nature that aren't eligible for federal funding. So we just basically were able to fund the remainder of the funding that was eligible for TAP project was not funded at the time. The next we have is our Town Center Trail Phase 3 for Mount Juliet. This is part of our GNRC, the TAP lapse award. This is adding $977,000 of federal UTAP funds to fiscal year 25 construction. This is to account for increased project costs as they're moving to construction, hopefully here in the coming weeks. Next, and I'll talk about the two TIP pages I mentioned were on the website, but are not in the packet. This is our active transportation program. This is for Flex, the movement we talked about earlier. So this is just that $1.8 million of UTAP funds being moved to the 3 projects, one in Goodlettsville, one in Mount Pleasant, and one for the city of Mount Juliet for their projects. Additionally, so the 2 projects we have will be flexing just under $1.1 million of UTAP dollars to our transit partners for the city for national MTA for the amount of $750,000. And then the city of Franklin for just under $335,000 of UTAP funds to be used for their bus facilities. So that can be used for bus stops, ADA improvements that are identified as part of their ADA transition plan, sidewalks, things of those nature. So TAP eligible activities to be used as part of those existing transit programs. Essentially, those will be flexed after they're moved to their existing pages. And we do have those available on the website as part of our public review. The last 2 pages we have here in the packet are related to our technology and transit program and data acquisition. So the first page you see here is our regional transit technology and transit program. This is to reflect that we're going to be moving $1 million of fiscal year 24 USBG dollars to the next page, which is our regional data acquisition program. So just reducing the fiscal year 24 by $1 million and moving it to Amendment 43, which is our regional data acquisition. So this is moving to a fiscal year 25 implementation, $1 million with a $250,000 match. So this is for the continued acquisition of big data tools. I think the one in particular we're talking about is talking for the Max Baker before he left, talking about we're doing acquisition for signal for traffic signal data. Michael is the exact name of
GNRC Signal Analytics.
Thank you. It's the signal analytics we talked about previously. So this is to fund that purchase of data for use by GNRC and all our member agencies. And that is all of the tip amendments we have today. I have to take any questions.
Any questions or comments for staff? Seeing none, this is a action item, and I will ask for a motion to endorse to the Transportation Policy Board later this month.
Make a motion to endorse.
Thank you. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Next item on the agenda is another action item, Transportation Planning Work Program. Turn it over to Matthew Cushing.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll note I'm standing in for Mr. Danny McDonald here today, who's on having a better July 4th holiday than me out of office today. So I'm here today to talk to you about the Transportation Planning Work Program, or TPWP or UPWP, Unified Planning Work Program, similar names for the same document. You've probably heard a lot about it over the last few months. This is likely the last time you'll hear about it in an iterative way. The goal here is to endorse this document for adoption to TPB. While I'll say that, while we do plan to finalize this document soon, this is a document that can be amended and modified following our public participation plan. So it's not just set in stone, set following this date. As a reminder, what is the UPWP? It is a document that lays out planning priorities in the region for the next 2 years. And there's kind of two main parts to this. One is it itemizes plans for use of metropolitan planning funds. So largely like MPO functions, spending dollars, staff dollars, or consultant dollars. It also lists and coordinates regional planning projects for partners that have regional significance. The UPWP draft is available online. It is going to be at gnrc.org/UPWP. That page has previous UPWPs. It also has other planning products that we have created in the past, if you're curious to look into those. I won't go into too much detail on the structure of the document here, but if you want to dive in, you can see a lot of detail on the administrative plans, the regional planning goals, the programming goals, the research and communications and outreach goals that we have. I'll go into a little more detail on the next screen here about the initiative, the GNRC activities and the partner activities that we are planning to show here. These are iterative updates to things you have seen already. Michael, if we can go to the next slide here. I'll say it is a 2-year planning work program. Likely in the first year, we will be focused heavily on the RTP and TIP development before moving into those newer projects in more depth. You have seen most of these already. I will add, since the last meeting, we did add the airport accessibility study. And there was a suggestion of the Transit Alliance of Middle Tennessee to have this here. That is not focused on like the physical footprint of the airport, but more about regional connectivity to the airport. So that has been added since the last time you saw this. Otherwise, the same themes as before: growth study focused, freight studying, greenways focus, and kind of complete streets and safety focuses that will be in our GNRC efforts that are ongoing here. Moving to the next slide, there's 2 here. So if you don't see a project on this screen, we'll check on the next screen as well. These are the list of partner projects that are in the UPWP currently. This is almost exactly the same as last time. We did add a City of Murfreesboro project, the micro transit study and implementation, under that transit category here. I'll let you look at that for a moment. All right, moving forward then, how we got here. This has been like a process, like I said, we've talked to you throughout this whole year. But in January through March, we sent out surveys, asked questions about what priorities you had for the UPWP and what projects you wanted included in it. April to May, we had the document out for state and federal review, was returned with minor comments, which we have addressed. Last month, we presented on this document to TCC. We're seeking TCC endorsement today before taking it to the TPB board on July 16th for adoption. So we're hoping that you will be willing to endorse the UPWP for us here today. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Matthew. Any questions or comments, staff?
About the airport accessibility. What was it?
Just like more detail on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so looking to just understand the regional connectivity to the airport, so how people are getting to it, and understanding the burden of getting to it from various areas within the region. Does that answer your question, Michael? If you'd like to elaborate any further there?
Yeah, this is this would be a partnership with Transit Alliance for Middle Tennessee, just looking to assess across our region how easy or difficult it is for different market segments to access the airport. And part of this is aligned with a federal initiative. It's the what is that? Don't miss your
On your way home or something.
yeah, Don't Miss Your Plane Act. I should have wrote that down before the meeting, but there is a federal initiative looking at making sure that we don't have transportation barriers to and from airports that this would align with.
Two of those co-sponsors are our Tennessee representatives. So
Don't Miss Your Flight Act. I think that's what it is. I think it's the Don't Miss Your Flight Act. Yeah.
I like find your way home. Yeah, go, you have to go home now. Yeah.
Good luck finding your Uber.
Yeah. Good luck finding your car. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, this is being an action item, I will ask for a motion to endorse to the TPB. All right. Second. All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? That's it. Next item is an informational item from Regional Transportation Plan, and I will turn it over since it says GNRC staff to Michael.
Get started. Good morning, everyone. We've got 3 items for your attention today related to the transportation plan. I'll start us off talking about the candidate projects where we stand with your applications. I'm going to demo briefly a tour, the software we're using that we're going to be asking you to review this week. I'll come to that in a minute, and then I'll turn it over to Matthew to preview the second round of workshops that we have planned for you in July. He'll have an ask of you today as well, just in terms of helping us get those scheduled. And then finally, I'll conclude the informational item with a look at what we have our consultant partners working on as we prepare regional transportation plan update. So quickly though, before we get into the candidate projects, I'd like to call back to our progression of steps during the plan development process. We're in this June, July timeframe, which essentially has us doing an assessment of regional needs based on the modeling forecasts that we have. We began working on the initial project evaluation of the applications that you submitted, and we're preparing for the second round of county workshops that are coming up here in late July that Matthew will talk a little bit about in a minute. Coming up in August, though, August and September are really important months. We'll be continuing to evaluate and prioritize your projects. We'll be wrapping up our cost estimates with our consultant partners so that we can get to a priority list that's fiscally constrained for presentation to the Transportation Policy Board in October, November timeframe. There'll be a third round of workshops where you have a chance to review that prioritized list of fiscally constrained projects. Which basically combines the revenue forecasts against those cost estimates and the ranked order list of projects that we have competing for funds. You'll get a sneak peek of that during the third round of workshops that we'll have with you in August. As for the candidate projects themselves, I want to make sure that you're aware of this new online software that we have that we demoed at the June work session of the TCC that was held online. There have been some updates to the software in terms of its functionality as well as the information that's contained within. So I'm going to hop off the slide, open up the browser. If you have your computer with you, feel free to follow along, get logged in. I'll show you how to create an account. Creating an account is not necessary to view the information. But there are some advantages to having an account. So the way to access this application is gnrc.org/app/2050 RTP. This is now a live look at the applications that have been submitted by participating jurisdictions and agencies in the MPO process, including TDOT, city governments, county governments, transit agencies, county highway departments, and the like. You'll land when you go to this URL on a list of all the projects. And let me walk you through these tabs real quick. This is a list of all the projects. This is a list of all the notes that have been submitted on projects by project sponsors or GNRC staff or TDOT staff. Right now, Matthew's the only one that has notes in the system, and everybody can see those here. The reports tab is a way for you to see important information about the projects as a whole. So for example, I know each of these meetings, we like to report to you on the number of applications and the value of those applications. That is now real time in the system. So we've got 407 projects identified through applications that together represent about $14.1 billion worth of work in present day value based on the estimates that you provided to us. We are doing independent cost estimation of those projects and then ultimately inflating those costs to a year of expenditure. So the ultimate price tag for these projects is likely likely 3 times that $14 billion ask. But this is a tab that you can explore different attributes related to the project set as a whole, including the number of projects that are associated with your agency. The resources tab provides links to relevant information in other databases that support the MPO decision-making process, including online databases that GNRC manages, as well as resources provided by the state DOT. So you can pursue this as you need to. What I'd like to do now, though, if you do have your computer out and want to create an account, let me just show you how to do that. So if you go to this login button, go to user login, click here, and then do the sign up button, you'll immediately gain access into the system. Once you get access into the system, you'll have a new tab called My Projects. This will basically give you a list of projects just associated with your organization, but you'll need to set your organization first. So once you get an account created, if you go over to account settings and just select the organization that you're interested in pulling into your My Projects tab. I've got GNRC, Metro Nashville, and WeGo selected. So if I go to My Projects tab, I'm seeing projects associated with those entities. Most of you are just going to pick your jurisdiction, but like I know, Briggs are probably going to be interested in WeGo and WeGo, Metro Nashville, and GNRC. GNRC is currently shown as the applicant for TDOT projects, legacy TDOT projects that are not included in the 10-year plan. So that's important to note. If you do filter your projects by your jurisdiction, you may see GNRC as an applicant for certain state rail projects, and we'll reconcile who the ultimate implementing agency is down the road, but we didn't want to lose sight of those projects that have been regional priorities for years that just simply haven't made the 10-year plan out of TDOT. So that's an overview of the platform. Of course, we're here to answer any questions you might have about it. We have 2 requests for you, and this is fairly time sensitive to allow us to move forward in the process. One is to review the information for your projects that you submitted that you see available. So the best way to do that is to find your project, click on this little icon, the eye icon, get all the details associated with your project. Just check the termini, the project description. Those are the 2 most important things to check from in terms of the description of the project. The horizon, the cost estimate, that's less important. That's what you provided us, but those things will be updated as we move through the process. So check your termini in the project description. Make sure we have it accurate. Also check the improvement type. We're going to go through and do a QC on improvement type, but each project is assigned to one improvement type that is the principal improvement happening with the project. Some projects have multiple things happening. We're just trying to find the principal focus of that project for the purposes of the improvement type. But the other thing that we need to do, if you're on this page, we need you to check the geocoding for your project, which is going to drive a lot of the evaluation that we do for each of the 407 projects in the system. So there's a couple ways to get to your map. One is on the project details page, and you want to pursue this map link here. Just click that link. It'll open up our Esri map experience and take you directly to that project. And we just need to verify the location. Primarily for on-road improvements. If you have a programmatic investment or citywide project, that's likely going to be geocoded to the headquarters of an administration building, so that's less important. But if you have an on-road improvement or an off-road improvement with a linear or point geography that's meaningful to the area being improved, check that geography, because as we do the evaluation, we're going to be looking for the conditions, both existing conditions and future year conditions around that project as part of our evaluation process. So that's one way to get to the project, is just directly by clicking the map link here, which is also available in the table. So if you want to query this list just for your projects and then just check the map links, or you can just go click this button here, which just take you to all the projects. And then once you're on this page, you can use the search feature here to type in the project ID, and it'll find that project on the map. So if you can check that geography, check the termini, the project description to make sure those things are accurate. This week if possible, but hopefully no later than Monday, you can just pop in there and make sure everything is good. If something looks off, the geocoding is off, or you need to update the description, the best way to communicate that to us is by adding a note to the project. So if you're in your project and you find a discrepancy, if you go to the project details page, scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's an opportunity to add a project note. And just click that button. For the type of note, I would probably select make request if you're asking us to update the geocoding of the project description. So I would select that as the type and just describe the situation to us there, add your contact information and submit it, and then we'll act accordingly. So that's the ask of you all this week. Hopefully by end of day Monday, if possible. This will allow us to stay on schedule for these July workshops that Matthew will talk about. If you have any issues with the schedule, just reach out to us. Just keep us posted on your pace and when you think you might be done, and we'll be as flexible as possible. Anything else, Matthew, you think I should cover on this?
No, I don't think so. And of course, if you do have questions using the interface, please feel free to reach out to staff. We're happy to walk you through it. But otherwise, yeah, I think you've covered it all. All right, I think that takes us to the county workshops. While you're getting that pulled up, I'll start us here. So I won't repeat too much of what Michael said here, but there's kind of 3 touch points, county level workshops throughout this process. We're obviously interacting with you all throughout the RTP development, but these are 3 really formal check-ins. You'll likely recall the April county workshops where we got you all together just to make sure we understood the project requests that were coming in to the RTP. In July, we're really going to be focused on the first bits of scoring and evaluation. Like we should have that spatial data that we were just talking about. We should have the indicators from our geospatial process that are the beginning parts of our scoring and evaluation for these projects. So in July, we'll be able to cover those with you. As we get to August, we'll start to add in that fiscal constraint element. So we start to actually see what makes the cost constraint list. But July is getting us there one step in that process. That said, I'll move into actually how we're going to schedule that. Right now, we're targeting the last 2 weeks in week of July 21st and July 28th. This cycle around, we are aiming mostly for online interaction. We appreciate that coordination on the county workshops round 1 to be in person, but we're likely going to move online unless anyone has a strong preference to hold in person. Generally speaking, it's almost every day of those 2 weeks that we have availability. I'll send some details around momentarily, but generally speaking, we have some morning availability, usually between 10 and 12, and afternoon availability between 2 and 4, but some days do differ slightly. I will be sending out probably later today kind of a doodle poll to help people schedule this to see availability. But if anybody is in the room and wants to get that out of the way, I have also created a little handout that you can fill in. These here, I'll pass these around momentarily. Just fill in your name, the organization you're with, and any counties that you'd like to be in attendance for, and just circle or check any of the availability you have. We'll collect these at the end of the meeting today. Like I said, if you'd rather wait for the doodle poll, feel free to do that. But otherwise, we'll take this just to facilitate that for you. And my goal will be to send out invitations for these meetings early next week. Pass that down your way if you don't mind, Michael or Felix. Yeah, thank you.
And don't pay attention to the person behind the curtain, right?
Yes.
These would be countywide as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any questions for Matthew? Yeah, sometimes the hardest thing we have to do is find time to schedule a meeting, right? All right, I'll wrap up this informational item, Mr. Chair, with a look at how we have engaged consultants throughout the process. We talked a lot about these activities in piecemeal fashion over the last several months, but I want to provide a comprehensive overview of what we've accomplished, what we have currently underway, and upcoming task orders that we plan to engage consultants with. In terms of completed activities, you can see here on the list, obviously over the last couple of years, we've finished our population employment projections. We do rely on information from Woods and Pool. We also updated our regional land use, land development forecast model that predicts where growth will occur at a parcel level across a 14 county footprint. We used a consultant group called Urban Sim for assistance on that. And then we engaged RSG in an update and recalibration of our activity-based travel demand model that predicts or simulates the daily travel behaviors of a synthetic population of Middle Tennesseans over the course of 4 horizons out to the year 2050. And that's the basis for our predictions of traffic volumes, roadway congestion, transit ridership out to the year 2050. In terms of what we have ongoing, we've been engaged with Kimley Warren and Birch Transportation, the partnership there to update the bike ped level of service. So these are the maps that you've seen where we score every federal aid roadway across Middle Tennessee for its ability to support safe and comfortable accommodation of pedestrians and cyclists. It's a level of service is the terminology, but it's different than roadway level service. It's more a measure of how well is the facility and the conditions suitable for walking and biking across the region. We also have a model that predicts the propensity for land use to generate walking and biking trips across Middle Tennessee as well. And those models are finished. We are continuing to work with Birch and Kimley Horn on some scenario planning tools to provide alternative land use predictions to see how that might change walking and biking behaviors, so on and so forth. As an example of what we have still to do with them. We also have engaged Kimley Horn on an update to our system preservation and asset management analysis. And so this includes looking at bridge and roadway conditions, transit assets, and then predicting forward how much money will it take to keep those in a state of good repair over the long term. There are certain targets we're trying to achieve with system preservation or levels of maintenance, and we can model out to the future how much maintenance activity will cost to keep roads and bridges where they need to be. So that's underway. We also have begun engaging CDM Smith and Banesh, Nelson Nygaard in support for our cost estimation that we've talked about. The way we're going to do this is we've asked CDM Smith to take the lead on estimating costs for the construction of on-road improvements. Could be a roadway widening, a roadway reconstruction. It could be adding a sidewalk, but this is an on-road improvement. They're going to focus on the construction costs. Then Manesh is going to focus on calculating costs for right-of-way acquisition and utilities. And then each of those firms are going to overlap by a 10% sample and do the full costs as a control on each other in terms of construction, utilities, or right-of-way. And then we have Nelson Nygaard helping us with cost estimates for off-road projects. This would be greenways, multi-use trails, paths, transit projects that are not occurring as an improvement to within the right-of-way. And then we've got Banesh engaged in helping us finalize recommendations for an update to our coordinated human services plan that we're doing in partnership with TDOT and the Clarksville NPO and the 2 RPOs that are within the GNRC footprint. GNRC serves as the Area Agency on Aging and Disability, so we help shepherd non-US DOT federal funds for transportation services to older adults, and so that's why we take the lead in this activity. We have engaged Kimley Horn in a synthesis of prior public input. This was an idea that was generated through our collaboration with Metro Nashville and WeGo as they look to update the In Motion plan, which has a new name now. Can't remember what it is. And then the 8MP, 3MP plan.
For the transit portion, we go forward.
The idea, and we're inspired too by Briggs and all his research on all the planning that has been done over the last 50 years in support of public transit. Well, we're now looking for relevant studies that have engaged the public and stakeholders over the last decade or so, just to make sure that we're not losing sight of the feedback that we've already gotten along the way. I think sometimes it's hard for the public to be asked these same questions over and over without some acknowledgement of the feedback they've already, or the input they've already given us. So we want to produce a really nice compendium of a synthesis of the feedback that we've gotten over the years, and then derive from that guidance on how to move forward with continued public outreach. And we've got Stantec under contract to help with our GIS work. And then upcoming, we've got a conversation with KCI, which is working with Nelson Nygaard on high injury, who's working with them on the consultant team, but KCI will take the lead on some analysis on the high injury network. We've got RK&K under contract to help us with traffic simulation. So I talked about the work RSG did on our regional activity-based model. We also have a micro simulation tool that can simulate traffic patterns, turning movements on proposed projects in the RTP as a way of helping people understand what would actually be changing day to day in a very localized way. And then we've got ICF consultants and Ernst Young, EY, under contract to help us with our climate action planning work. There's a lot of overlap between what we're doing with the EPA and TDEC and what we're doing for the NPO process, particularly on the transportation sector for emissions reduction. So they'll be roped into providing guidance for the RTP as well. And then we've got identified a managed lane strategy. We did a managed lane study maybe 10 years ago with PB back before the rebranding to WSP, which essentially looked at best practices for managed lanes across the country, and then a cursory review of priority corridors in our area that would be suitable for managed lanes. Like, for example, State Route 386 and the proposal from our Northeast Corridor study to add, instead of doing a general purpose widening from 4 to 6 lanes in that corridor, to do an additional lane in each direction that could be managed either as a carpool or transit or some combination of that lane. So we want to make sure that as TDOT continues to pursue the choice lanes enabling legislation, that we're ready as a region to communicate with them what our priorities are for deploying that approach to managing traffic. We've also got identified some consultant assistance needed for financial benchmarking. We did all this stuff in-house last time. We just have other priorities as staff and could do some help looking to see how other regions are investing in transportation, at what levels of spending, and what's different about their approach to funding transportation projects than Middle Tennessee. And then we've got also money set aside for consultants to help us with creating visualizations for some of the high profile projects that would be recommended by the plan. This could be static renderings, but also computer animations of the before and after shot for some of these proposed improvements. And then ultimately also want to make sure that we have a nice video piece for our website or for distribution elsewhere that showcases the work of the region to define its transportation priorities and how folks could be involved in that process moving forward. That is a list of how we've been engaging consultants over the last couple of years and what is coming down the pike. Happy to answer any questions.
That is a long list. Got a lot going on. We appreciate all the efforts.
What?
I do hope the public input synthesis, this doesn't just say fixed traffic. That's a one big word bubble. We've heard that a lot. We know. But thank you very much. Any questions for staff? All right. We'll move on into the regular reports. First one on the agenda is TDOT. Mr. Matt.
Hey, Oak. I'm going to kind of give a pseudo federal highway report, unless you want to, Zach. I'm not sure. I feel like being in now anyway. So recently we've received 2 memos from the USDOT. I think one came today, and that was basically from the Secretary of Transportation reiterating that federal highway and the DOT is not enforcing any of the emissions regulations that are the DEI. I think I wrote, had it saved here. So, oh, nope, that's the other one. No, but I think it's really just no surprise to anybody, but it was just a formal announcement that they're not going to be enforcing any of those initiatives that have been removed or or discussed through executive actions or executive orders by the president. That's the first federal update. The other one had to do with a memo that it's something that we're still looking into regarding some of the way that the language was identified. But if you're familiar with this Safe Roads Initiative, Safe Roads is actually an acronym, which stands for Safe Arterials for Everyone Through Reliable Operations and Distraction Reducing Strategies. So I don't know how long that took, but what they're asking us to do, and this is why I'm bringing it up, is because I'll just read the paragraph that I think pertains to everything. We're getting back to the basics, using data to guide decision-making and prioritize investments that reduce distraction while improving mobility and safety for all road users. Within 60 days, and this was dated July 1st, I request that your state DOT, in coordination with your MPOs, use available safety data analysis and assessments to develop a list of arterial segments, including intersections with the highest safety, operational, or compliance concerns that will be addressed by the end of fiscal year 26. That's the thing that we don't understand. We don't understand what addressed means and what we have to do with that list. So again, it says, please submit the list of locations to your Federal Highway Division office. We're still trying to get clarification on what that means and what we have to do, but obviously it says that we need to coordinate with the MPO. So stay tuned on that. Again, we've got about a month and a half to go to identify these locations. That's it for the federal side. Any questions on that? Okay, the last thing I had was the statewide partnership program, as you might have already seen. Hopefully you received an email from us saying that the application window is open, and that will be open until August 29th. This will be the third round. Timeline gets us to a point where we would release the updated 10-year plan in spring of 26. So if you do have any questions, please reach out to us or to GNRC staff on any of those if you're interested or have questions on that.
Sure, I do have a couple of questions, and I think Matthew gave you a preview. Matthew gave Matthew a preview of these questions. Two questions. One is the interactive map or database for the 10-year plan. When do you expect that to launch?
Well, I do not know. I think there was an idea on the books, but with the commissioner's departure and Steve Townsend also departing, he was sort of heading that. So I have to check to see where that is. I think it should be available soon. We've been looking for it as well.
Link to where it will be, it should be on the resources tab of that app, the online app that I showed earlier.
I'll get.
But it's just a static PDF now. Eventually, TDOT plans to have an interactive map where you can search for your projects that are in the 10-year plan. The other question is, and you may not be able to answer this today, but we're getting a lot of questions from locals as to what, we're looking right now at the current call for projects for the statewide partnership program, but there's a lot of questions about what's actually been awarded in the last two cycles. Because the 10-year plan often just says, it'll list the project and a project cost estimate for the year that you plan to do the project. But that's not exactly the same as like understanding that a certain amount of money is going to be awarded to a community to advance their project. That would then be meaningful information for us to be able to figure out what else we need to do to accommodate its implementation.
You're asking if there's money if there's an amount of money set aside for each of these?
I guess, is there more information that you intend to communicate to locals beyond what's in the 10-year plan, which doesn't actually show an award per se?
Are these the locals that received this statewide?
I'm mostly talking about statewide partnership program
Yeah.
projects that have been awarded the last two cycles, where there's still a lot of confusion or questions about what has actually been awarded to those prior two cycles. I know we can feel confident
with who you say is asking, because are you talking about the people that were not successful in an SPP application? Because
Well,
the ones that have received it have a letter with all the specifics, but.
well, for example, I'll use Franklin's Mac Hatcher project, where We haven't really been told what the award is. We know it's in the 10-year plan. There's a cost estimate for 2032. We don't know what it means for programming purposes. And then the letter, I think, to Franklin also says, we're going to give you so much money, but you've got to go find a lot more money for this project to actually happen.
Right.
So is there a cash commitment from the state to that local government as part of that award? Or is it just sort of a, hey, we're going to help you get this project done?
But there is a cash commitment, and I think that's identified in the letter. So, but there is no ceiling that we're utilizing. I think it goes into the entire mix of how the 10-year plan gets updated. So it's really a discussion about how much the ask is with all the applications, what's being brought to the table on top of that, and how that fits in with the other 90 projects that are out there. So, I could try to get some type of formal discussion on how the process happens. And I don't know if it's a true systematic process. I think a lot of it has to do with the nature of the projects being requested or applied for, and trying to spread the peanut butter across the state. So I think some of that is also, it's always been the discussion about when we first received the money from the TMA, that it was going to be equally distributed amongst
750 per region. I think it's difficult for people to see how that 750 per region is actually being used. Maybe a good first step is we'll make sure we have copies of those letters, but eventually we need to know what like the cash commitment is from a programming perspective. And then also as the locals approach us about, is there any additional NPO funds that can augment this investment from the state? We'll want to just understand what the state's commitment actually is.
So I have one of the slides that came from what Preston presented to the mayors about a month ago, I think it was, that identified like the statewide partnership, some statistics, and it says that over 422 million were identified in the committed funds for the 76 eligible projects. 1.9 billion was requested. Of the 9 projects that were selected for this 2024 cycle, $209.4 million in local funding was provided, which was 23% of the local commitment for $925 million worth of statewide partnerships. Again, 9 projects. So if there's more that you need as far as dollar amounts and how it's disseminated, I think we can probably get something more formal to you. I'll have to check the question on it.
That could be too much.
Any other questions for Matt? All right. Next item is chair's report, and I'm the vice chair, so I don't have anything. So make that one quick for you. I'm just the fill-in guy. So, all right, next item is staff report. So I'll turn it back over to either Matthew or Michael.
Sure, and we'll actually start with Taylor.
No, Taylor.
Yeah.
So sorry, didn't mean to leave you out, Taylor.
I'll recover. Thank you.
It's all right.
So before I get into this, actually, I'll answer Jim's questions from earlier about just how you move the phase 1. We did upload the map to the actual amendment. It's 22 intersections, and they have there's a map. You can see most of those west corridor. They're identified the Mumbrian and the others, and then there's just I think 2 or 3 going up north south, roughly on 7th Avenue. So those are just basically the non-choose how you move intersections they've identified. They want to start as the high priority for phase 1. So I apologize for not having that. I had it in the file, but I just not had memorized intersections. That is available now on the TIP app. If you go to the amendment, you can view the map of all the proposed 22 intersections. Moving to the SIP status report, though. Right now, we don't have a huge update for this one. I expect to see a lot of movement here in the next 2 months as we get to the end of the fiscal year. Obviously, most of the projects we have in our TIP amendment today are just basically small changes to get projects ready to go, either scope changes, termini, maybe updating how we present the funds and tips that we allow for obligation for construction. So main thing I'm going to point out here is that we have, to match the slide, we are at 73% through the effective period and 60% through obligation. Once again, I expect that to catch up a little bit as we get through the end of the fiscal year. And the only other update I have for the status of the funding grants is that The state streets are all closed on June 26th right now. We don't have any other federal ones that we're aware of that we add to that list. So please look through, see if you have any questions. But I said, I expect a lot more movement here in the next 30, 60 days as we have projects kind of get ready for the end of the year obligation, especially with the redistribution that TDOT is currently working with the FHWA.
You know,
And next will be Andrew with an update on our penny process.
All right, thank you, TCC members. So today I'm going to be talking briefly about this new online software tool that GNRC developed for improvements to the penny process. So the penny process is the public infrastructure needs inventory that we do annually in partnership with TASER, which refers to the Tennessee Advisory Commission on Intergovernmental Relations. The purpose of the penny is to provide the state legislature and state agencies with important information about funding needs for infrastructure projects throughout Tennessee. The inventory involves a wide variety of projects, and that includes transportation projects, wastewater projects, school projects, et cetera. And this year we inventoried approximately 450 school projects and then a little over 1,200 general inventory projects. We are excited because we developed this new software tool this year that not only helps with data collection, but it's also going to be able to be used for a wide variety of purposes, including grant writing and other projects going forward. So we encourage you to take a look at that and then fill in projects throughout the year if you have any projects come up. Otherwise, we'll be reaching out shortly to get the next process underway. And if you have any other questions, you can go to gnrc.org/penny to see more about the penny process. And then we have a tutorial about the software that we have. Or feel free to either reach out to myself or other staff members for any questions on the penny process. So thank you.
I'd really commend staff for getting this into kind of a standardized data collection template and really getting that going. And I think that'll be very helpful long term.
I think so too. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Anything else from staff?
And I'll just comment on the upcoming meetings. Nothing too surprising here. But one I especially want to draw attention to with the holiday, we moved this TCC meeting back a week. So TPB follows just next week. As you saw, the agenda is fairly similar to what we had today, but there are a few action items where we are going to need a vote. We're going to need a quorum next week. So just be checking internally to make sure people will be attending. If we need to set up alternates or anything, please let us know. That is an important one for a few action items. Of course, there's some other TCC meetings you'll see listed here on their regular schedule. I will point out as well the August 20th Regional Council Body meeting. There are a few relevant updates that you may be interested in there, but you will especially hear about our ongoing work on the Brownfields Initiative, where we're trying to catalog and identify brownfields for initiatives in the future. And also the climate action plan work that Michael was talking about before, that's in a relationship with TDEC and EPA. Both of those will be discussed at that 20th meeting, so it may be relevant to you to flag on your calendar. Otherwise, that is all I have.
All right. Is there any other business to come before this body?
Mr. Chair, I do have one item. Matthew just mentioned we're working on developing a inventory of brownfield sites for many of the counties in our region. If you have any personal knowledge of suspected or confirmed brownfields within your community, if you could just let me know immediately after this meeting, I'd like to follow up with you. Or if you have somebody within your jurisdiction takes an interest in brownfield sites, brownfield redevelopment, or just has access to information to help us sniff out potential brownfields within your community, we'd be interested in connecting with them as well. So just let me know immediately after this meeting if you think you could be a resource to us on that project.
Anything else? All right, everybody's favorite part of the meeting. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.